discuss position, Saginaw County position description with Dan's the chairman of our shellfish committee, and I think you know everybody on the board.
I do.
Dan, comments?
Oh, I just greatly appreciate you coming and, you know, taking this into consideration for us. It's been quite a process to try to get something to happen, and, you know, we really wasn't making any ground until West Bath and Phippsburg and all of them got on board. So, like I said, again, you know, we greatly appreciate you taking this into consideration for us.
Thank you, Dan.
How many deputies are you thinking of training?
2.
Two.
And I don't know what you know about our agreement with the town of West Bath. I mean, it's new. It was adopted by their Board of Selectmen about a week and a half ago. And so we've just kind of gotten it set up now that we know that it's going to happen. There's required training through the Department of Marine Resources that has to be done for anybody who enforces municipal shellfish conservation ordinances. That training is done annually, and it's in 2023, it will be the first week of March 1st and 2nd.
Sounds
I
like,
believe
yeah,
it
end
is.
of February, beginning of March, yep.
Yeah, and it's a 2-day course for new folks. It's a 1-day course to be recertified, and that's once every 3 years, I believe. And so, in the interim, you can get a waiver from the head of the Department of Marine Resources, the commissioner. The commissioner can grant that waiver. We've put in for that request. We should be hearing something this week from them, and then we'll be able to start to do that. It's kind of a formality. If it's a trained law enforcement officer, trained in the mechanics of state law and enforcing state law and the court system and how that works. If you had to issue a summons, if you had to take any sort of enforcement action, much of that training is over those basics which our deputies would already have. So we don't anticipate any issues with that. They've actually gone out and purchased what little equipment they need to do this. We would allow them to use their vehicles, their take-home cars, to do this. And they would be working as basically on a per diem as they're called, or occasionally, as they get started, a little bit more, meeting with some of the local clam diggers, those who have licenses, and just to meet with their conservation committee, and some of that just kind of start up to become acclimated with the process and become familiar with the locations of where people are putting in, coming out, and what flats they're digging on, and all of that stuff. So probably to start off, there'll be a little bit of a learning curve and a few more hours, but then we anticipate probably working about 10 hours a month or so for those deputies. Again, if there are specific calls, if there are issues that crop up, whether it be areas that are closed off, digging in areas that are closed off, which, I assume is not really a problem, but it could be. Or if you have out-of-towners coming in and trying to, or people that are suspected of taking more than what they're required to by law, or any number of things, they would investigate those. And that may be on the flats, or it may not be on the flats. That may be doing other things. And so, trespassing over people's property is also a concern. These are some of the things that would need to be looked into. So that's what services we're able to offer through this, and that's the intent of that agreement.
We think our waterfront homeowners down there would be very thrilled to have the sheriff's department involved, because, sometimes it can be kind of like the Wild West down there,
And a lot of times, just having a presence at the right time of the tide, so that people are aware you're out there,
Yeah.
deters them from even trying.
Right. And the guys that are doing this also know that, they're probably gonna be spending a little bit of time when they're on duty hours, just kind of passing by those locations, just to be visible and be seen. That's kind of an advantage that you have when you have, uniformed deputies doing that. You get that little added benefit, I think.
And you said they'd be using a marked car?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And we have a very, very good working relationship with Marine Patrol. Matter of fact, when West Bath agreed to sign the contract, we had a meeting with two deputies that are interested in doing this, and with Clint Thompson from the Marine Patrol, and we sat at a table in the conference room and talked for a couple of hours on how this is, and Clint gave them all kinds of advice, and so that we have that resource as well, that close working relationship.
So you just signed a contract with West Bath,
Yes.
and so when does it go into effect?
So it went into effect when it was signed.
Oh, so it's already, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, do we have a date?
Oh, that's all right. That's it.
But basically, it goes until, effective September 13th,
Yeah.
until June 30th.
And so how many hours do they, I'm just curious what they're,
So in here, in this contract, it calls for, I want to say it was 10 hours a month
West
estimated.
Bath?
But that's an estimate, of course.
and you have an hourly rate for that?
So the hourly rate is basically the deputy's overtime rate plus the cost of fringe benefits. And what that is, I did some calculations, and that's between $53 and $55 an hour. And that would include their hourly rate plus the,
Yeah. And that includes the vehicle?
we're not gonna check.
That's, I mean, the vehicle and the fuel, I know, I'm just trying to.
So how is the town gonna be, how are you gonna bill the town? How's that gonna work?
We'll bill them just like we do other extra jobs, it's on an invoice. We might wait, we could do it monthly, quarterly, we could do it any
What
number
other
of
jobs
ways.
do you guys do?
Not that many,
Yeah.
not that many. We have, Bath Iron Works, we'll have a christening ceremony
Okay.
once a year, we do that. And then we usually get some utility
Detail
stuff.
right? Yeah.
Detail stuff. Some of that, when it's a non-government or utility, non-government agency, that's billed at a higher, there's a detail rate for that. This wouldn't be though, because the statute is pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
If it's a municipality, we can't charge a detail rate, it would just be our own kind of
One very minor thing here that I'd like to point out, under working conditions, it says that the employee would be expected to lift up to 10 pounds. Could we be?
What does a peck of clams weigh? these
30
days?
pounds.
30 pounds,
A
okay.
pack weighs 12.5 pounds, but normally guys will put 25 to 30 pounds in a bag.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna check somebody's clams, you'd have to lift up a bag probably twice what a peck weighs to dump that much out.
Yeah. That's standard
Yeah.
HR language, I can assure you that both our deputies that are interested in this position can lift more than 10 pounds.
I would hope.
Which two deputies is it?
Al Huntington and Garrett Olson,
Biggie Huntington would be it on it.
he can't wait, yeah.
So what's the next?
Unfortunately, we do not have the budget that West Bath and other towns do. So, I mean, that's gonna have to be something that would be
Right.
pretty specifically discussed as far as lending hours, maybe even not patrolling during the winter months, because that's when we'd have the least amount of problem anyway, because a lot of the flats freeze over and that sort of thing. I mean, there's ways we can work around it.
Right, we recognize that, even with the town of West Bath,
Right.
that probably January, February,
Mhm.
there wouldn't be a lot of activity.
Right,
So, yeah. Again, this is a per diem, it's not
Yeah.
fixed on anything.
Right.
So would this be as needed? Would we call? Would we set up regular?
I would think as needed, but still have like an hour a week
Right.
of patrol time, at specific times, like 2 hours before low water, if you're driving down those roads,
Okay.
and the harvesters that are down there see you,
Yeah, okay.
if they become aware that the area is being patrolled.
Yeah, we would just need to know, when,
Yep, and I could provide you with a tie chart easily.
yeah, the tie charts and what locations,
Yep.
Okay.
particular,
Yep,
I couldn't tell you right now that the town of Woolwich.
right, no, we've got,
I guess on West Bath, but,
we've got poor access as far as shoreline.
Yeah.
Most of the regular clammers, the guys that have licenses go by boat, but there are a few that still walk in. But the guys that are doing the most illegal harvesting are walking in.
yeah,
But they've become accustomed to being able to do it with no
Right.
altercations, because our warden, John Hentz, resigned a year and a half ago, and unfortunately, we hadn't been able, until now, we hadn't been able to make anything happen.
Joel, there's a great app that your deputies could put on their phone, it's called Tide Alert. Used to be free, it's now $9.99 a year. But they can put in any location they want, it'll tell them what the tide is at any given day.
yeah, and matter of fact, I think Clint mentioned that to him, and I would be at all surprised if they would do that, on their own.
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
So Danny, I got a question for you. So what do you see, so it being this time of year, the beginning of October, what do you see a need now, or do you think we're okay to
I think
spring, or?
very short term now, just to start the idea of there being a presence.
Yeah, so for like another month or something?
October, yes. November, December, maybe not so much.
Okay, and then back going in March or April, or?
Yeah, so, March or April would be about the time when everybody's trying to get back out there clamming and.
Joel, do you have like a boilerplate contract that we could just take and tweak?
I do, and I was just looking, I just have, right here, what do you have? You have a copy of that,
Yeah.
job description.
Yeah.
I do have what we kind of agreed upon, it's got a couple of omissions in it, but I think it was the final. It passed a couple of lawyers, we had to review it, so if you want to make a copy,
Absolutely.
or copies, I can share that with you folks. The original one, the signed copy that we signed, I printed and put in another folder with my secretary. And that would be an important document, and if it was left with me, it might get lost. So you'll know right where it is, but.
And I'm sure you're aware already, but anytime that you write a summons and the fine is paid, that fine comes back to your budget.
Well,
I believe, unless it's a different scenario
Yeah.
than when you're working with the sheriff's department.
yeah, so, depending on what the summons is
Just
for,
yeah,
it would go to the state if it was a Title 12 violation,
right,
or if it's a specific ordinance,
yeah, like a shellfish.
I think that would come to the town. I'm
I
not
believe
sure
it's supposed
how the
to.
court does that, but they do that to the town, which is fine, because you're reimbursing us for the cost, so,
That's right,
you know.
use it.
But, like in West Bath, it isn't so much of summonsing people, because they have to be in presence.
Exactly.
It kind of will
Yeah,
dry
yeah,
out.
no, they back off once they start to realize that, you know, they could get several fines in a row if they keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And I know you've also had some issues with guys digging marine worms, and a lot of those I know more are trespassing and walking across people's yards and past their bedroom windows and that, you know,
Trying to
6 o'clock in the
steal
morning,
engines.
and those kinds of things. We do get calls occasionally for that. And some of those are more, I can tell you, my experience has been, some of those are just hardworking people that if you speak to them once and say, hey, go here, go someplace else, that's it, it's one and done.
Yeah.
Others are a little less savory and a little more problematic to deal with. So for those, we do warrant checks and oftentimes find something.
Just like every industry in the state, there's always a few bad apples.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, you know, that is also something because those flats up in Phipps Point and whatnot.
Yeah, and that, you know, if you're responding to those kind of trespassing calls, it also enhances your presence there.
Right.
Well, you know, preferably, we wouldn't have any of those kind of calls, and people would be more respectful of the landowners, which most of them are, but like you said, you know, you always get a few.
Great.
I think what we'll do is we'll tweak this to change the names and stuff like that, and see what, Dan, you look it over and come back to us with some recommendations.
Yep.
And I don't see why we couldn't put this on the agenda for our next meeting in 2 weeks.
The other thing I will tell you is this is pretty much taken verbatim from an agreement that they're doing in Lincoln County, in Damascotta or Newcastle, in the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. We tweaked it, we took their original agreement, we tweaked it to meet our needs, and ran it past our lawyer, made a couple other changes, and
We
that's
do
what
that-
this document
We
came
do
from.
that all the time, plagiarism, you know.
Well, we thought, don't, not creating the wheel,
That's right.
Plagiarism. is kind of-
Why
Plagiarism,
recreating the wheel, you know?
Right, right.
So are you working with Pittsburgh at all?
Not really. I mean, I've had some conversations with just one of their selectmen who indicated that they're gonna try to go their own.
Right, that was my, yeah, that was the sense that I.
I think they're looking for a
Transition.
shellfish warden / harbor master.
Okay,
So they have additional
right,
issues down there that
Yeah,
they need to
okay.
have addressed, and
yeah, that was sort of the feeling that I got.
And John stayed on working for them, so they're not in the same boat.
John didn't work for Pittsburgh.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just Doug.
My misunderstanding, I was thinking.
yeah, and yeah. So I know that they're actively looking for a duct replacement right now.
Yeah,
And again, they're looking for someone who can be a harbor master, and not that we couldn't provide that service,
Yeah.
we just don't have a boat,
Right.
so.
okay.
Around that. We might have a boat in the future, but right now.
We keep our eye on their budget.
But, you know, if everything works
I
out,
didn't
you
say
know,
God, I said,
if everything works out, you know, like I can go down with your officers and show them around, you know, the usual parking spots, and every
Yeah.
once in a while, somebody will park someplace where they're probably not supposed to, and you know, I can point out those places so
Sure.
they can direct them not to and whatnot. But there's a few usual parking spots and walking paths and whatnot. It's not the greatest access for a clamor. So, you know, if they're walking in and walking out, there will be evidence of it, because they drag a sled behind them. The wormers always just carry a pail,
right,
so they're much easier to identify, and you don't even have to bother with them.
and usually the claimers will kind of hide a sled someplace in the.
Yeah, they'll do that from time to time, yes.
God knows.
The ones that have been at it for a long time know a few more tricks than.
So do we want to have a workshop with Dan?
Yeah,
I do that.
we should meet with you 2 weeks from tonight.
Yeah,
Next Monday meeting, we'll work, maybe meet it. Do we have anything going that Monday?
Not yet.
Not yet. Why don't we meet with you at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Meeting,
17.
yeah, whatever's most
Okay.
convenient for you folks.
And in the meantime, you mark up your copy, and we'll all look over our copies and see what we can come up with.
Would you like me at that meeting as well?
If you want to, sure, that'd be great.
I think basically it's the hours and the time and the
Right.
few little,
Well, overall, it's the budget, you know, we
Yeah,
have
right.
a limited amount of money to work with, and
Right.
it's even more limited when we don't sell all our licenses, which this year is one of those. And the reason being is because we haven't had law enforcement, so nobody's bothered. So.
Yeah, why get a license?
Right,
No one's gonna
right.
check.
Right.
same idea as driving, same thing.
Commercial drive? Commercial?
So are you talking about before the select group, like 5:30?
5 o'clock,
Well,
5 o'clock on the 17th. Yep.
Okay.
All right,
I think that's it.
that would be great.
Thank you
Yes.
for coming.
Not a problem.
Dan, thank you for coming.
No, thanks for setting this all up and continuing to support us, and again, thank you
Yeah.
guys for taking it into consideration, and
The biggest thing is for them to show up haphazard, rather than come every Tuesday at 2 o'clock or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And they know that, yeah.
John had some great places here in town. I used to go out with him once in a while, and he had made friends with a lot of people. We used to drive right under one lady's clothesline. He could park, he could see the
Yeah.
flats.
With her
And they
permission.
couldn't see him.
he had permission from
And she'd bring him out a cup of coffee, you
Yeah.
know?
He had permission from several
Yeah.
people that don't allow access to the diggers, so
Yeah.
it was very handy for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do the
Yeah.
same with you.
But if you know Al Huntington, you know that he has a way with people that is just, makes them very, very friendly.
Yeah.
He's just a very outgoing, charismatic kind of guy. Yeah.
And that's all very helpful down on
Yeah.
Lawrence Reed Road and that Phipps Point in that area, because, you know, there's a lot of digger traffic down there between Worming and Clamming, and every once in a while, like you said, there'll be an issue, and everybody gets tense about it for a while, even though it
Yeah.
usually subsides very quickly, but you
Yeah.
can't blame them for
Yeah,
being nervous
yeah,
about.
yeah. And that's the
some
same
of the-
thing, that's what we heard in West Bath too,
Yeah.
that it was close to getting volatile.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so, we don't want that to happen.
No,
Thank you very much.
All right.
No problem.
we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys, appreciate it again. We'll see you on the 17th.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck, don't stay too late.
I did.
You're right out here.
All
All of them. Okay, see you then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
9 minutes, we'll have,
It says immediately follow.
Yeah, but that'd be a public hearing, right?
we can't try, you didn't try.
What? I,
Try.
That's enough.
should I just do immediately following after all of them?
You could just say, and then.
When we're done with that, we continue. Yes,
Yeah.
I thought you were pointing at me. Not yet?
What do you guys think? I mean, I think this will work, don't you?
I would think,
choice.
if you read farther, if you read farther into it, their figures are much different.
Oh, they are.
So-
They
You
have a
see
budget.
that the town of West Bath has a lot more money than the town of Woolwich does.
Yeah.
They have a lot more mansions on the shore.
They have more, how many, also they have more licenses, don't they?
If they're spending up to $250,000, then obviously there's, he said 10, but that says 20.
Says
Oh,
that
yeah.
our station budgets not to exceed blank number of hours or a total amount of $15,000 for the town.
So
15,000.
Price of licenses.
We definitely don't have that budget.
Yeah, well, I think we'd have to do is, I'm curious to what Dan, I'm curious, and if we skip some months, and if we do end up talking to the auditors, and we do already have 3,500 that we failed to get them
Right.
carrying forward, we have some for
We
spring.
do have some.
Or maybe, we'd have something for spring maybe, because by the time this went into effect,
Speaking of which, are we gonna do an audit?
they're doing it. They came last week, right, the auditors?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have a meeting with
Were
them.
you here for the meeting?
Well,
I
I
met
think
with
it's the
Bill.
mill rate.
Yeah, Bill said, I asked. I said, we're gonna be there, and he's like, Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
I
like,
remember that conversation.
Yeah, so they were here Wednesday, Thursday,
Don't worry, they've had
Friday.
lots of questions already. Lots of
They questioned your fraud statement though, Allison.
Yeah, you can't just write down what I wrote.
I did.
You can't put people's names down.
Seems like it's a,
But that's the fun part.
I didn't take the hint, but
No, it's okay.
I asked you.
I just, Tammy wanted to pass these out,
Oh, okay.
so,
I asked and you said, okay.
no,
Thank you.
no, it should be November. You should have the entire month of October. There's, am I correct, Kim, no plowing payments until November? January,
Normally, I think I started them like the end of October,
depending on the pay period.
depending on, yeah.
Okay, so
So,
whatever you want, Neil,
because
before
I'm
next
gonna
meeting.
say,
Maybe you should expect it prior to the next meeting.
yes.
I mean, they don't have to be ready until we start paying them, right?
Well, I don't think the contract doesn't say that
How
though.
many people live past this?
How many, yeah, how many people live
I think we
past?
counted, there's 12 homes, right?
12 homes on the wrong side of it?
And did you have one for Sean, or did you get one?
No.
Oh,
You
here,
have
that's right.
another
No,
one?
no, it's
One
our
more,
tape.
he doesn't have
Oh,
one.
our tape line, okay.
I mean,
I know what
You
it
didn't
is.
know about
Is
this.
Sandy Ridge past this?
It is, but if you count all the homes, I believe there's 12 homes.
And you guys are talking.
What's the
Are
distance?
you gonna
to the
discuss this?
furthest house where this thing?
Briefly.
Obviously. Do you want this and then we
Furthest
get to
house?
later?
Oh, God, a couple thousand.
Sean, you got a couple thousand feet of hose?
Well, yeah, well, just so you know, wait a minute, there's a couple of things here, you go ahead,
Can we run it
Mr.
to
Shaw.
Shaw?
I mean, no, the way this will get done, there'll be multiple pieces of equipment, and
Yeah.
it isn't, done.
Within any time, a couple of hours, you can get over it.
For an immediate response,
In
Sean.
the meantime, you can backpack a bunch of buckets of water in there, get a bunch of school kids and pass buckets of water in.
I mean, there's no choice, it's gonna be closed, period, for a little bit.
No school that day.
Yeah, we'll be closed that day.
It's
so-
planned for a week from today, right? So there's no recycling, there's no mail, there's
Right.
no school.
It's only 8 hours.
It's about, well, and it may not even be the full 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
But it's just, you gotta have some, there's
How
many,
big is that culvert?
it's a 5-foot tank.
Five.
Allison has been down to see it, and it's in imminent
It is
danger.
definitely an
It's
ordeal.
it's in imminent danger of immediate failure.
And you've got to put, it's going to be a one-piece culvert going in,
There's two whole foot.
Two 40-footers,
2 40-footers.
so we're gonna take out
So
the
you
five.
do one side of the road and.
Well, we're just taking the whole thing over.
No, it's gotta be the whole thing.
We'll give you that over, then place them.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Back when we did the tank, there was no money, I forget now, what, the middle of the eighties?
Yeah, I found in the Old Town Report research that in 1985, Mr. Shaw put in his road commissioner report, it's quite interesting to see this, that in the spirit of saving the town some money, we were able to install some tanks, which obviously were successful.
Well, hey, well done
Yeah.
together.
So if you remember, there was one at the old stage road near the old townhouse, and that got.
During that time, we was taking out, removing a lot of old gas tanks. Well, you know, we had them on hand anyway.
They were cleaned and all that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was all good. And we had no money for culverts, so we put them in. So that's been there since
Yeah.
40 years, almost 40, well, 35 years.
Served us pretty well.
So where is this gonna happen?
Pardon me?
Where is this gonna happen?
East Hedge Road.
Oh,
East Hedge Road.
What would, I mean, so what, Sean, what would you do?
I'm thinking about that right now. Depending on if it's a medical call, I'll just call Lifelight.
Oh, oh.
Right, 6 o'clock.
That would be fun.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. First order of business tonight is the approval of minutes of the meeting of 9/19/2022.
I move that we approve as written.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, those in favor?
You got the, oh, right.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Now we'll back up and do what I should have done. We have to have a general assistance ordinance hearing. Does anybody here wish to speak about the general assistance ordinance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to sign the general assistance ordinance.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor of signing it? Okay. This is pretty much a formality on the part of the town. The state kind of dictates to us what we do anyways. Selectmen's comments. Mr. Green? Allison?
All right. Two short things. One is, we had talked last week or 2 weeks ago about the impact of the certified ratio on school subsidy.
Yes.
And I reached out to Maine Revenue Services, and what she said was that it's certainly I'll read it to you. It's certainly a variable in the calculation, but I don't think it will have a punitive effect on the amount of the subsidy received in proportion to other school units or in relation to past years. What she said was, there's a lot of variables other than what we have for setting this for a homestead exemption and whatnot, that go into setting the subsidy for the school.
So bottom line, they don't think it will affect it?
Right, she says there's a lot of variables that go into the state funding formula, and then she went on to say, I'm not going to pretend to have an understanding of the actual calculation. As you might remember, it's a pretty complicated thing, so. But I thought it's definitely a good question to ask.
So basically, she gave us a definite maybe.
It's definitely. And she did, what we did learn, right, is that it's not the same calculation that goes into the homestead and veteran.
Right, so it's not a clear cut
Right,
draw.
right.
That's great.
Oh, and then the other thing is, I got an email from Karen Robbins in Arousing. The City of Bath is applying for an EV charging grant. And they want to put in, the City of Bath wants to put in 2 level 2 pedestals. I don't know much about this stuff, but and that's the 4 chargers, and they want to put in this, the library parking lot. And Karen thought it would be a good idea. She asked us if we'd be willing to just write a letter of support to the City of Bath for this. It doesn't cost us anything, and we have constituents that have, electric vehicles, and so.
I wouldn't think the library would be real thrilled about having.
I was surprised at that,
An hour
but-
or 2 at a time.
I was surprised, I was gonna bring that up at the next library board meeting, but,
They don't have that much space, do they?
no.
I would think they'd put them in their parking lot downtown,
I know, but,
Municipal parking lots, right?
municipal parking lot,
Yeah.
right?
Because there's obviously the cost of the electricity, right?
right.
So that would go to the library?
No, that library, that parking lot is owned by the city.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
city
plow
owns
like
all
crazy.
of
Okay,
it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So, but if you like the idea of doing it, I would be happy to write a letter just saying, we have Woolwich constituents that would.
Yeah, I guess I have no objection to us lending to it. Maybe they could put it on our side of the bridge.
Well, I think we would have to apply for that one.
Okay,
Okay, all right, that's it, thank you.
going back to what we were talking about with the school thing, the reason that came up is our certified ratio is dropping to 85% this year. That means any reimbursement you get for open space, homestead exemption, veterans, et cetera, anything that the state reimburses us on, you're gonna get 15% less of it this year. And it looks like we're gonna drop as low as 65% next year. That's why we've got to do a reval, and we've got to do it as quickly as we can, even everything out. Otherwise, it's gonna cost people more money if we don't do a reval than it will if we do a reval, so. Dale?
David, when we were talking about the reval the other day, and I told you about us doing the in-house reval years ago,
Yeah.
why couldn't we do that now and get us through until,
I don't know if it's state, I don't know if doing that is actually legal. I don't think we can just pick a number out of the air and increase everybody's, because how do we know that if we go up 10% on everybody's property, how do we know that somebody's property actually went up 10% value? You know what I mean? The whole thing we're doing a formal reval is that they'll go out and visit the properties and actually make it an informed, decision on what the property's worth.
Dresden did just that.
Yeah, and
Of course, they didn't have one for at least 40 years.
But the trouble is, if you do it that way, you don't necessarily address the fairness issue.
Yeah.
So we can all go up a certain percentage, but that still has nothing to do with
that's not fair to somebody that hasn't made any changes to the house, and the neighbor has added, 3 bedrooms and a swimming pool and jacuzzi and et cetera, just to increase everybody a certain percentage, I don't even know if that's illegal.
anybody who doesn't.
Obviously,
I think
residents getting
it's-
away with it, but.
When I checked with Juanita, she said it was legal, but it wasn't necessarily appropriate.
Right, exactly.
Anybody who built a new house would also get the 10%.
That's right.
Right,
And
that's
that's
not
not fair, because the brand new houses are the ones that actually have taken it on the chin,
That's right.
you know.
So that's right, so anything new would still be paying more than their,
Yeah, I was just trying to keep from losing.
Figure it's going on 15 years since we did our last reval.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of houses that have been bought in that 15 years that may have not been in the best of condition 15 years ago, but have been completely rebuilt and are now worth 3 times what they were 15 years ago. And, so go up 10% on what they were paying 15 years ago, and then go up 10% on the house next door, which hasn't had any changes, it just doesn't come out even. Okay, Jason?
All right, so we got a couple of things. So the McCloskett Park project has been done. It was done on Thursday. Rob Crew reached out to Kim, reached out to me. I did stop and look at it. I think it looks good. Encourage you to look at it. There was some paving. There was the additional ramps on both, additional planks on both ends of the ramps. There's the concrete abutment. There's a hard surface, which is basically crushed gravel that goes down. They cleaned it up, put it back together, and he's satisfied, and I think they did what they did. So I reached out to the state, John Knoll, and he's coming next Tuesday to meet with Kim and I to go over all the funding numbers. Because if you recall, we got a grant for up to almost $15,000, a matching grant. Now, having said that, if you guys recall, this was all submitted prior to COVID, and it included the plan included the 2 floats. And I've tried to get floats from the state, I've tried to get some free ones, I've tried everything. Well, we got floats we got replacement floats for the other part.
But I thought we put in a grant for these,
We haven't gotten it. We
haven't gotten it.
We haven't heard anything.
because I walked it up there and,
I know you did, and,
Yeah.
and we did, but we haven't.
okay.
So, this is gonna be something that's gonna come up, I think, in that meeting next week, is, we don't need the floats this fall, but we are gonna have to be thinking about what we're going to do in the spring, and I know price of materials has gone way up, and, but right now, there's an abutment with no floats.
Yeah, I can tell you, those styrofoam billets that you use to build the float, used to buy those for about $55 a piece. Guy bought 2 recently, paid $285 a piece.
Yeah, I got a just an off-the-cuff budget number, and I told you about it, David, and it's from a builder. I don't even want to say, somebody we all know or
I
does.
can check.
Yeah,
I have several people that I deal with that build floats, and I can get, the last I knew, it ran about $26 a square foot.
yeah. They have to mirror the ones, the ones that need to be built, or we need to have, are the ones that are they have to be 6 by 16. They have to be if you go down there, the ankle bolts, the eyelet support into the concrete. I measured everything, measured the ones we have, and he said that. But next week, when we talk to Kim, I think that's going to be come up. I was like, what's the town going to do in the spring to complete this?
I think we could honestly say that they'll be here in the spring.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could get one or two people to volunteer to help,
Right.
I could build them over the winter.
Well, and I recommend that maybe we talk about using some of the remaining ARPA money
Yeah.
for the completion of the park. And then I think Kim said that this month, in October, we may hear if there's anything coming from the county, right?
Now, I've got a set of plans that I use when I build them for
Yeah.
Wiscasset, and they're fairly simple plans. You can just make the boards longer or shorter and use the same plans. I've built 9 of them so far.
So anyway, there's that, but we are meeting next week on Tuesday, I think. So then, there's been a lot of questions and calls, and I think you might have all heard, what are the concrete structures down here at the old route, the existing Route 1 where they're gonna do the preload. Those are all well tiled that will go up as a fill to encapsulate the monitoring equipment, okay? Because everybody thinks they're putting in whatever, but there's
What
equipment
do
in
they
it.
think they put?
I don't know, but I've had a whole bunch of phone calls. I called Jimmy at Reed today. It's like, what?
Wait.
You did?
Oh, this person.
Everybody, at the county,
Oh, yeah.
everybody's like, what are they doing? What are they? It's like, oh, so anyway, that's what they're doing. That houses monitoring equipment for this whole filling, preloading, which will be a year, and we all pass that along. And the last thing is you guys all have the email from DOT. And so at the beginning of that email, I think this is good news, I think.
I think it's very good news.
And so Devin, so they're offering to have a meeting in early November. We know that it would be after voting, and I think we wanted to propose it the following week. They don't
Is it
say that.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, so maybe the 15th or 16th, or does anybody have a preference, because we've got to schedule this. And in it, I guess you guys saw it,
I think he
Devin.
wanted us to send a couple of dates, right?
Yeah, but basically it says we're good to come to Woolwich for a public meeting open to the public in early November. And maybe all this information could be read then or something, but let's start with the meeting, right?
I think the week after, in like 15th, 16th, or 17th.
Yeah, because you don't get into Thanksgiving and then you get too late,
Yeah,
so.
and it's after Veterans Day.
Anybody have any preference? Because I'll reach out and throw it.
You wanna go that late in the month?
Well, I don't, but the week before is voting, and then you have Veterans Day, and
Yeah.
so I didn't know.
Yeah, whatever date you can work out.
So I mean,
I'd
it's-
say,
yeah.
do it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's that, and that's all I have.
Okay.
I do think what you put on the Facebook page about the wicking and all that was very helpful.
Well, thank you. All we know is we understand it,
Right,
but we learn it, and
That was
people are
helpful.
confused, like, today I got 3 people that, why, I guess they're not gonna be putting in the other 85-foot bridge because of this. It's like, no, they are. They are preloading the entire area because of bridge abutments, and that bridge will not be constructed for at least 1 year. And it's on drawings, and it's there. Also, the DOT and Allison can help with this. Their information, we had a meeting, my father and some of the select board met with DOT, and they can only comment on things that are under contract. So there's all this confusion about the road, the ramp and all this thing, and it's not necessarily the case.
Did anybody get a card from the gentleman from Inland Fisheries that was talking about the boat ramp?
No.
Do we know who he was?
I can find out from Ruth.
Yes, right, because somebody invited you.
Yeah, if you could give me that information.
Okay. Yeah.
I was asked for it in another town. They're talking about repairing a ramp, and I told them I'd try to give them the name of the guy they need to talk to.
Okay, that was, okay, Inland Fisheries, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it, David.
Okay. Public comments. Now's the time to talk to us about anything that's not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, please wait for it to come up. Anybody? Nothing? Okay. Road Commissioner, Mr. Shaw, sir.
Well, as we were speaking earlier about the closure of East Fifth to put the new culverts in, how do you wanna handle that, Sean? Do you think you wanna put an ambulance on that side? Four
We
wheel?
have to play it by ear, really. What I'm gonna do tomorrow is I'll probably look in-house on our system at work and just see if we have any frequent flyers that live on that side, but I can't think of any offhand.
No, actually, I know Jack was joking, but it might pay to put the what is it, Yamaha, the mule thing on the other side, for 8 hours.
I mean, it would be possible to make
Make it work.
at least for the mule thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You could
Oh, yeah, we can
knock
do-
it down in
Yeah.
a few minutes. I
Get
mean,
something to work.
Over the years, we've done this many times.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, but this goes door to door to all those folks.
Yeah.
And they, it's after they start work, and they can park their cars wherever they want. And it's the best thing to do it, as we said, no mail, no school, no trash, no recycling.
water's down.
Yeah, and it's a 5-foot tank right now.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
I'll talk to Glenn too, and maybe, I'm working every Monday, so I'll be able to work, but maybe we throw the beast on the other side of it, just for, the off chance that some catches on fire, it's, you know what I mean, just at least.
Yeah, no, and obviously if somebody did get transported to it and then
Yeah.
taken, I mean, it'd be remote, but it could happen, but
Where would people, some people live on the other side, would they park on?
How does your excavator reach?
wow.
The
There's more than
biggest,
one.
the biggest problem that that comes to mind, that's not a real problem, but is people. When people want to get back and forth, walking, if you will, or whatever, because most will probably leave a car on this side,
Right.
and,
So you asked Allison, I don't know if I have a real good answer, whether it's on the edge of the road, up farther, like where's the best place to park. We've done this a million times, and we don't get that many, but some will. The biggest thing is folks have deliveries, and make sure the oil delivery, the Lowe's truck, it's just about,
UPS.
yeah, it's all about information. So tomorrow, I think, is the door-to-door thing, right? And
you know,
we have dead-end roads in town, and
We should get it.
There's no other way to
it's on
do
TV.
Yes.
yeah, and you can go on the website. I mean, Kim has this.
We should get it out of every kind of media we got.
And how long is it closed for?
It's just 8 hours.
8 to 4, but we hopefully.
maybe less than that.
Yeah, we hopefully figure worst case
Maybe
scenario.
more. I don't know what you're in.
So if the tide comes in, maybe more.
Okay. Anything else for Jack?
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
You asked me about the paving.
Yes.
The projected price for the upcoming year is about $90 a ton. For paving, for hot top. So for an example, the Chops Cross Road, we were discussing that. That's just under 13,000 feet, 20 feet wide. That would be pushing a couple $100,000. Just that one road.
Finally, you got some time later this week, and I can sit down, maybe take a ride around town or something, do what we need to.
I mean, I don't know how far you wanna try to go with this thing, but I think we can get out of hand if we're not careful.
What we've been talking about is every year with the price of hot top, hot top is 90% petroleum. So with the price of petroleum going up, the price of hot top goes up. Every year we have a set amount of money to spend hot top of the roads. That means we do less and less every year. The last thing I want to do is see the infrastructure of the town fall behind. So at some point, we've got to try to figure out how we can increase our tar budget at least for a year or two to try to keep up, or try to catch up.
But everybody is falling behind,
Right.
I mean,
Well, there's a
DOT,
lot of the
I'm
smaller
not
towns.
making a justification for it, but I don't think there's any way to keep up.
Well, there's a lot of the smaller towns up north that are digging up the hot top and going
Well, I
back,
don't wanna do that.
to dirt roads. And I don't want to see the town of Woolwich do that, so.
You'll be okay.
If there's a way we can figure out that we can at least get back to somewhere near where we were before before doing the same amount. And even the state used to put an inch of, you know, pavement down where they redid a road, and now they're doing 5/8 of an inch, which.
Well, back in the eighties, we did.
Basically, they might as well grab some Sears weather beater and go out and paint the road, you know?
Back in the early eighties, we could do a mile road, 20 feet wide, $20,000.
When you look in the 1985 town reports, or the 86 town reports, Mr. Shaw put that in there under his paving account. That the average road was, the average mile of paving was $20,000. It was fairly thick, and it was, and thankfully all
Yeah,
that.
but 2 inches.
Yeah, and thankfully all that was done then, because it is true, many towns, I mean, the city of Bath struggles if you look at the certain streets, you know? Unfortunately, the town did go as far as it went, but I don't know, everybody's got the same problem.
Yeah. So Jack, right now, what first two roads would come to mind?
I think the one that's been on the list is Shops Cross Road. We paved half of it a few years ago, and we never finished the other half of it. Another one that I really, the second on the list would be Montswood Road. But other than that, we're not really in a bad way.
But the difficult part is if it takes the entire budget and you can't even do one road, then when do you ever get back there? So if you take Phipps Point or Montswig and Chops Creek, if you take these roads, they're so
Our
long.
budget wouldn't even do a third of the ones we were.
Well, yeah, it's a long stretch.
And the problem with that is mobilization. Once you have to move all this rigging, that's why I like to be able to do something while we're right there, while the paving people are there. It's a lot less money. They charge you $2,000 or $3,000 to move. And that's not very productive, so. And they can help it. They're very, they're all very good. I was very pleased with Allstate this past year. They did a remarkable job. We had no issues whatsoever. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a crisis. I don't think we have a, I think we just kind of work it out and,
I just wanted, in my mind, I'd like to see us try our best to stay ahead. You know, I know we're not gonna get back to doing a mile of road again, but it'd be nice to put some extra money out there and do something.
well, I would think Allison should be able to find some extra money with Democratic time frame.
It's an election year, you'd think.
I would think that.
Sure would look good, wouldn't it?
Okay. We'll move on. Our code officer's report from Todd McKenzie. He said, looking at a forestry issue on Ledgeview in with the state, possible land clearing issue. Meetings with Mrs. Gandy on site on Saturday to review her plan, and spoke with Holistic Meds Shop, and they are reprogramming their sign to comply with the ordinance.
Oh, good.
And that's been done, and it's.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, and it's a welcome change from some of the complaints. While we're on that, David, do we want to publicly mention that we're going to advertise?
We are going to be advertising the job. Tom McKenzie is our backup CEO, and he has agreed to help us out as much as he can, but we do need to find a permanent CEO, code enforcement officer. So we are going to be advertising that position right off, and the position will be open until the last day of November. So if anybody has any skills to do that, or you know anybody has any skills to do it, I urge them to come down and get an application. Okay, EMS director.
Since the last, so the last meeting, there was no report from me, so I apologize for that. So since the meeting before that, so 2 meetings ago, we have had 32 calls. 31 of those were 911 calls for service and 1 was transfer. The 911 calls, we had 32 patients, resulting in 19 transports and 13 no transports. The transfer happened, it was a truck check night, and we just happened to have everybody here, we got asked to do one, so cleared up a bed out of the hospital. We used MC1 8 times in the last month. Other than that, everything's going okay. We need to start looking at something different as far as our staffing goes, unfortunately. And I can't give you the full picture on that unless we go into executive session at the end of the meeting.
We will be willing to do when the meeting ends.
Okay, I just want to be able to give the full picture on that. We're doing okay, but we need to move in a different direction. And then the only other piece I have is our service contract with Stryker, who does the service on our cardiac monitors, is due. I missed an email from them, so it's a little late, but they're gonna still honor the price. It's normally would be $3,004. I don't know where the $4 comes from. They do give us a 15% discount. So the final total for both monitors for 1 year is $2,553.40. And that is budgeted for in my budget. So I just need approval from the board to sign this so that we can submit this, then get an invoice, and then I'll get a PO.
I don't think we have much choice.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
So in regard to that, I have a quick question from the last meeting when you talked about a new contract.
Yeah, we chatted about it.
Yeah, that would be for the
Stryker lifting.
power, yeah, that's
$1,800 or something.
Yeah, I haven't fully committed to that. I would like to. Prices are through the roof on everything. Our oxygen bill is almost doubled. So I really want to be able to do that. I just don't know if the funds are there with everything else going on. It's something that wasn't budgeted for.
Right. Is that something when you enter into it, I mean, it's just whenever you enter in, that's the year from that date?
Yeah.
So if it were down the road, I mean, or do you think we're good?
I mean, it's brand new, but now 3 years old, so.
So there's no warranty even now?
No.
No, I mean, now it's.
Right,
Yeah, basically, it's upkeep, it's,
Yeah, I
you
can
know,
see.
checking for failures, checking for, you know, we figured that unit's rated to hold 700 pounds free holding on an arm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stress there.
Oh,
So, I mean, I'll certainly get a better look at the budget, and see if we can, move forward on that or not. On the bills, I didn't remember if I submitted the bill on the, repairs, significant repairs rescue or not, so I included that. I don't recall if that's been submitted yet or not. Okay. So I don't have a purchase order for that.
you mean the 11,000?
Yeah, right, yeah.
You've already got the bill?
Okay. So it's on here, but, and then the second one, they warranted most of it, the repairs to rescue one.
Yeah. And
The seal on that.
yeah, didn't we already take this up in a meeting where we would take that from
Yeah.
rescue
Yeah.
billing?
Really, yep.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take the 11,000 for the old ambulance from the rescue building funds. Still made more sense to put 11,000 into that than pay 60,000 for one with 3 times as many miles on it.
That's all I have.
Okay,
For
all right, Sean, fire chief
Since the
report.
last meeting, we've had 5 fire calls, couple accidents, and we had a couple truck checks. Met with the officers 2 weeks ago. We made a tentative schedule for the rest of the year for training, starting in 2 weeks. Finish off the year for training and then work on next year's schedule for training. So that's good progress moving forward. I don't have a lot else. I met with Forest Service last week. I got our info updated with my info as chief now. They signed me out as the town fire warden, and I've updated that information. I've also signed us up to get a Smokey the Bear sign for the front of the building. Either out. I haven't decided where we're going to put it yet, and I kind of wanted to chat about that a little bit. It's a new sign. So they used to be wooden signs. Now they're making them out of steel, aluminum, whatever they have, metal. And it's the fire danger, so it's got low,
Yeah.
moderate, high. We can, fire warden can change that. And I think it's a good PR thing for the town, and it's good for folks that, we're on a high traffic road, so it's one of those things that it's good to, if that's in front of the building, for us. So I'm working with them to get that. It's mostly covered by them. I think it'll end up costing us probably $300. And then we'll have it for the element, so. And working on that. Also working on the Forest Service grant for some forestry equipment. It's a $5,000 max matching grant, so 50/50. You pay half, they pay the other half. And Mike had gotten quite a bit of equipment from that. With that, so.
Wouldn't smoking be considered a forestry?
Smoking, yeah, I can ask. So working on that, and yeah, nothing else. Frank came and he's working on getting my other phone line fixed, trying to diagnose that issue in the office, but other than that, I can't think of anything else. We haven't turned the heat on yet, but it's getting close.
Curiosity question, what was going on here Sunday? I had about 10 people ask me why there's so many cars.
So Saturday, Sunday, Danny, one of our EMTs, he is part of the Team Rubicon, a volunteer group. They go all over the nation, and it was, storm recovery and assistance with all kinds of things. Anyway, he asked me if they could have a team meeting here this weekend, both days. It was actually a training, I believe. I didn't have a problem with that. Told them that you guys are more than welcome to use the training room. And then Sunday, the sheriff's office used the room for staff meeting. So that's what all that motion was.
Right, so real quickly, so first of all, I want to thank the members that took the tent down.
Yes, we took that down, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank.
Well, no, I don't even thank you, I was driving by you, that's what I recall, Nick and I, but it is I will attest that it is extremely
It's a
heavy.
project.
And it does take some people, but anyway, that was good. The other thing is, yes, I talked to Frank today, actually, and he thinks besides this little thing, and your outlet, he had surgery in the middle of all this, so he was out for a while, but, so he thinks that after the outlet and whatever final thing with you, he's all set for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I know it takes time, but. And I did talk to Kim and you talked to them, and you're gonna do a little, maybe some washing on the building?
The front, the truck check night this past week, I pointed a couple fingers at some of my folks that like projects. They seem willing to do that before it gets too cold. At least the front and give it a good.
Yeah, I don't think we're thinking the whole building. I think what happens is with this front door, Kim knows best, but the lights on the side and the front, it draws in all those.
Yeah, well now that it's cooling off and the bugs are starting to die.
I don't think anybody's, we're not looking to wash the whole building.
No, they used to wash that every year for us.
Yeah.
Now they've come up with their own little plan, and Donnie's gonna bring the ladder truck over and they're gonna wash it. So.
Okay, that, we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I told them, so. Yeah, they're gonna do that, probably in the next couple of weeks you'll see that happen, so.
Great.
Did you mention that you talked to the fire marshal about the sprinkler?
Yes, yeah. I spoke with Kim about the sprinkler.
Oh, in the vault?
Yep.
So I spoke with our fire inspector as well as another fire inspector, and we don't even have to run it by the fire marshal's office. It's, like what I told Kim, it's basically you check with the insurance company, MMA, and if they don't have an issue with it, it's up to them. I speak with the fire inspector a little bit about it. It's kind of our own thing if we're concerned, with it, or concerned with the documents more than it is what it is. I mean, it's a sealed room. As long as all those pipes that go in and out are sealed tight, I don't see any way that it's a steel lock. It might heat up, but those sprinklers, if the whole building charges, those don't go off until they get up to 145 degrees. They have to burst a little piece in the end of them. So.
Right, if there's a fire on the first floor, not every sprinkler.
No.
Until they burn through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And then were you gonna talk about that anonymous letter?
Oh, yes. Anonymous must be
Geez,
my
you're gonna have to take some of your stuff.
Yeah, so we get an anonymous letter from somebody from the Falmouth Post Office. I checked and I found a sticker on it.
Okay.
So it's mailed to Falmouth, but it was regarding a former firefighter making some, we'll call them less than professional comments on Facebook, on various Facebook comments. This individual hasn't worked for us. Kim and I checked, and it hasn't been since 2017. He hasn't been a member here since 2017. I took a phone call, I believe it's probably the same person, 2 weeks ago, my personal cell, it was an unlisted number. He wouldn't give me his name, but he was, again, making comments about the, he said, oh, you need to take care of this. I said, well, hold on, he doesn't work for us. He hasn't worked for us for quite a while. And tried to dig into it, but he wouldn't give me any more than that. And very elevated about it, but like I said, we got an anonymous letter, basically saying to take care of the issue, and he was gonna be sending this to us and BIW.
Yes.
Gentleman is employed by BIW, but, and then there was, within the letter, there was some screenshots of Facebook comments and a picture, and
But he just changed his profile picture to him wearing
yes,
Woolwich.
this
fire
individual
gear.
had a recent picture, I say recent, it was posted recently on his Facebook page, but it wasn't from an incident within the last 5 years, it must have been
Oh,
7 or 8 years
so that's
ago.
what prompted it.
And said he was getting ready for work or
Yeah.
something like that.
Recent call or
It was
something.
like a month ago, like, yeah.
So anyway, just some foolishness really, but I wanted to make you guys aware in case you get, Facebook comments, notifications or whatever.
Give out your personal phone.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, that's it.
So do we have a scheduled date for that whole sprinkler testing, that whole thing that did they ever tell you that? No, the whole work?
They came and did that already.
They did all the work?
They did all that,
So
yeah.
all of it's been done?
It's done.
So the fire.
They haven't changed the motor gong yet.
Oh, the motor, that's what it's
Yeah,
called.
but they did the annual testing of everything,
Oh,
so.
okay. And it went okay?
Did they fix that leak down in the cellar?
Yep.
Well, that's what you're talking about, right?
But yeah, but that was coming from the motor gong, so that has not been fixed,
Right.
because I asked him about it.
In the compressor?
Yeah, and he's like, well, that would be through Dean or whatever. And he said they were just here for their annual sprinkler testing, so.
Okay. That's good.
One other thing, just while I thought of it, we had ladder testing last Friday, it was, up to Brunswick. Everything passed pretty near with flying colors. I had one ladder that they discovered a little bend in one of the bottom rung. I have no idea how it got bent. It's pretty strong rungs, but it's got a little bend in it. It's not out of service, but their recommendation from the company was either repair it or probably replace it. I'm going to look into, I don't know how old that particular ladder is, but I'm looking to see the age of it. And I'll check with our manufacturer, see if they recommend repairing it or if it's something we need to replace. It's off of engine 4. But other than that, everything else went well for testing. So we have post-testing the end of next month, November 29th to 30th, up to the Woolwich Catholic Church parking lot.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to old business. Changing select board meetings to Wednesdays. I would be very much in favor of that. I'd like to do it after the first of the year.
I was thinking January would be.
How would that affect you two?
And we're actually, fireside, we're talking about changing our meeting nights, but it's not definite yet. We currently meet Wednesdays, first and third.
Oh, so you
Oh, so that would be a problem for us at our meetings here.
right, but you're,
No, second and fourth.
but you're talking about changing that, right?
We're talking about changing it to possibly Tuesday night.
We're thinking about going from the first and third Monday to the first and third Wednesday, only because the staff's here till 6 o'clock anyway. Right now, staff leaves at 4 o'clock on Monday, and Kim sits around, does nothing, 2 hours waiting for.
I don't do nothing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
More
strike
engaged.
that. You're stuck here in the
Cut that
building.
out.
You're stuck here in the building for 2 hours that you shouldn't have to be stuck in the building. Is that a better way of saying it? So,
Thank you.
David is not up for re-election this year? No, just kidding. Just
But,
kidding. We all
yeah.
get it.
You know, so we're just thinking it's better if we did it on Wednesday. She's here till 6 o'clock. Very busy
Very
till
busy.
6
Well,
o'clock.
well, and the other thing we talked about, the current, so Tom, the current backup CEO, is working on Wednesdays. So if the new individual, if we get down the road that far and it works out that that's the best day, you could, slide her into the select board meeting, and maybe the planning board would consider changing theirs. I think that'd be, something to talk about. But,
It just would work out better and not keep
It's been
him here
really
longer than she needs to be on night.
Working hard.
It's true, it would get rid of a lot
right,
of Monday
that's right.
holidays.
There's very rarely many Wednesday holidays.
Right.
So that would be a good thing.
Okay, so, let's revisit this later in the year, but I think first of the year would be the time to change it, okay?
That's a good idea.
What do you think?
And that gives us time, if anybody has any, you know, if it conflicts with any other committee or anything, they can let us know between now and then. Do you have anything else on the old business?
The only thing I wanted to bring up was that, tomorrow we're having, I called to get a mold company down here to check the flooring in the closet.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had CNS flooring here and he said that's bad and they're gonna have to, the company's calling tomorrow to come do an evaluation on it. But we got the, invoice for the proposal for the flooring in the closet and our makeshift kitchen for $1,100.
It's more than I thought it would be, but, too little, we really have much choice.
No, so I had a conversation with Kim, and I don't know, obviously we had a water leak that caused a mold problem, that caused a big problem, right?
Right.
And so if this company comes and there's, you know, mold, or I call it mold remediation, or whatever, we don't have any idea what this costs. Is this end up becoming an insurable? And did you call them? Or were you?
I'm gonna wait until I hear from them tomorrow to see what,
Yeah.
how bad of an issue it is.
That's a good idea, because if we can tie the two together and our insurance would cover it, that would be a great.
I know we have $1,000 deductible, but if they want $5,000 to
Right.
clean that room out.
Yeah.
And it is, and you saw it, it is.
Oh, it
It
is
is,
bad.
yeah,
very
we
bad.
saw
It's
that.
been leaking for years.
It's black and it's not, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Kim.
all right. Anything else on the old business? Okay. New business, November town warrant. We have the November town warrant here, and it basically covers the elections, both ours, state, and RSU one. So motion to sign the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Although we have a choice.
And Debbie, would you be available tomorrow to post the RSU warrant and the town warrant?
Tomorrow? Yeah, sure.
Because we're closed on Wednesday.
And while we're having fun signing warrants, how about the RSU one Board of Directors warrant? Motion to sign this?
Second. Oh, yeah, so moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Okay. Do you have anything on a new business on that? Yep. Okay. We were not going to adjourn. I entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to a personnel issue.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of going in? Okay. All right, we will